Hey guys, you're here for what Destiny needs now. The game has been in a bad state and it looks like they're pushing back Final Shape to make it a better than Lightfall experience, which is what they need to do. Bungie needs to put magic back into Destiny. Replayability and grind was part of the allure of Destiny 1 and 2, just to sink hours into the game and feel rewarded. Destiny 2 has improved in tons of ways over Destiny 1, and Destiny has always had ups and downs. So how do you make people want to grind and feel rewarded? I say that the Halloween memento is a step in the right direction. They took something people wanted and created a way to grind for it, which is great after the buff to drop rates on normal haunted sectors, so we can avoid the terrible legend difficulty, which the legend difficulty is not hard at all, it's just artificial difficulty that players dislike. Big health gates and one-shots. Bungie removed some health gates on the Exodus Crash Strike because they realized boss health gates aren't enjoyable. With a 25% reduction to Headless 1 in boss health and reduced boss damage, I think the mode would be a reasonable farming adventure. That being said, it should probably be an addition to existing content, giving players more ways to play. So next year, Festival of the Lost should add an activity to do other than this one, and haunted sectors can award previous year cosmetics. Next year have an activity for new cosmetics, and this is something Bungie does bad. They sunset activities that create variety, and they have tons of previous year masks and armor that are silver only that people aren't buying. How do you drive player engagement? By creating opportunities to feel rewarded. Have normal lost sectors for grinding engrams, legend for old Festival of the Lost cosmetics, and a new activity for new event stuff. This should create enough variety but also give each playlist a purpose. The playlists in the game right now do not have an iconic purpose, no loot identity, and that's something dungeons and raids actually do well. The dungeons and raids have specific armor and weapons that you can farm. It also has low drop exotics. It has a higher difficulty for adept weapons or artifice armor. This is good loot identity. It gives players a reason to come back, albeit I hope to see the in-game LFG breathe new life into these activities for a more casual audience through adding new incentives. Nightfall's having specific weapon weeks is a good loot identity, but I also think the game should have strike-specific loot, like Destiny 1. Elaborate themed armor that only comes from one corresponding strike, and you could just make it a low drop chance or a quest or number of clears. The best option would be an escalating chance on every clear. If you want people in the strike playlist, make it only drop from the strike playlist, but make sure the loot is cool enough to drive players in. Exclusive loot is healthy for the game in PvE. Not everyone can get exclusive PvP loot, but I would argue with enough perseverance you could get anyone through a Grandmaster, albeit a carry. But a better example was the old Thorn quest, the Thorn version of Savathun's Song. This was incredibly difficult, but also doable. People wiped all the time. Nightfalls were harder back then, but as long as you had someone alive, you could complete it slow but steady, and cheese it potentially. I helped players with this quest many times. This got players to do one of the hardest things in the game and struggle for over an hour at the boss room for something they wanted, the exotic thorn. A sense of value and pride had been placed on that thorn, something money can't buy. Say one person was given a car for Christmas. He would be excited for a moment and eventually sell that car for a newer one. But another person was given a suit for Christmas. That person wore that suit to work for 1 year and saved enough to buy a car. The car that was bought would have more sentimental value. There would be pride and purpose felt between the transaction. In the first case, there is no pride or purpose, just gratitude. Gratitude will fade a lot faster than the memories we make in Destiny. But now all of our exotics are handed out of a battle pass and used as a marketing gimmick. Right there, you removed the magic of Destiny. You removed the grind. You remove the meaningful loot out of some activity. Targeted ways to grind loot is what drives engagement. Drop chance and drop protection is what will keep players from rioting about it. So here's another question. What brings the magic of Destiny? I personally think the magic of Destiny is built in its one-off experiences. Things that you only need to do one time, like exotic quests. I think older exotic quests were well done. Thorn and Deathbringer, Xenophage, Malfeasance. Hidden doors, portals, and puzzles are what drive the magic. The element of mystery and curiosity. Overall, I think time gating has helped the game. While I despise it, I do see its merits. Destiny is a buffet for locusts. Destiny is a table of fancy foods that we as locusts will devour as soon as it's put out. Then tomorrow we want more. Between next season and final shape, it will be 6 months. If they dropped all of the season in one day, it would be a long 5 months. It would also be overwhelming on what needs to be done first. And to that I say, people who don't want time gates can just start playing the season 10 weeks after it begins. That allows you to binge all the content until next season. What else is magic? Community events. Not the lame, farm my activity for community points to time gate are crap. I'm talking community puzzles, ARGs. A good example was the Corridors of Time. Come together to solve a puzzle that only has to be done once. Another was a geocache that led to a real-world Valkyrie Spear relic and gold coins. This was solved through clues and ciphers and took a large community. And honestly, would be nice to see Bungie have their own convention for people to meet up in real life. They don't really do much for GCX anymore. To a lesser degree, I think Imbaru Engine was a great choice. Unique puzzles as one-off experiences. I like to see it. You aren't going to find that in other games. I want more tire games on the moon. That was something simple but also engaging. I've spent hours over there getting a perfect score, not to mention hours cheesing it, and the triumph that activates for everyone watching is genius. Mini games like this have magic written all over it. People want more reasons to patrol the world. High-value targets and public events are not it. They aren't magic. But a good way to fix public events is to buff the exotic drop rate to what it was like when the game came out. High exotic drops are helpful for beginners. Minigames appeal to fun and replayability. To a lesser degree, the shooting range in Neomuna, I had to try miniguns to find one that worked. The washing dishes, the tower defense. It was fun, exciting, and different. The magic Destiny needs. All you have to do is give it targeted loot and people will play it again. Give it a chance at Ascendant alloys and people will play it. We need more reasons to be on the overworld for the game to feel like an MMO. Fishing is a step in the right direction, although Bungie will just remove it. Right now there are homies and blueberries never do anything good for you. They steal our kills, steal our motes, bag our corpse. If they had a way to actually help you in the overworld, there would be more magic in the game. Team games that can only be done in overworld, like the purple ball game in the tower, soccer on the farm. GTA has online free mode competitions to do with their local instances. Most time in air, grab the most collectibles, things other than shooting a horde of guys that come out of nowhere. And all you have to do is something like put some cosmetics as low drop chance rewards, with drop protection preferably. Something else I liked with one-off magic, adventures. They took away adventures. This added meaningful story content but also showed an evolving world. You know what patrols do? Nothing. You could remove them and people wouldn't bat an eye. The base game adventures would string you along the world and lead you into private instances with unique enemies and vehicles with weapons, places you can wipe in. And heroic adventures weren't terrible. There are not enough vehicles with weapons or access to them. No, I don't want to summon them myself. Just make garages somewhere or a beacon on the ground that randomly spawns that can call vehicles. What about Sparrow Racing? Sparrow Racing was great as a limited time event, but poor as a ritual activity. It was the original Gambit effect. They showed Gambit, everyone loved it, they added it as a core activity, nobody wants to play it. The fun factor just isn't there. If Bungie added Gambit as a PvP rotator like Mayhem and Momentum Control, it might have done better. There are only two types of racing right now, realism and destruction. Destiny 1 had realism racing and it wasn't enough. For it to thrive in Destiny 2, it would need to be more like Mario Kart, abilities, alternate paths, and vehicle variety. Even heavy pikes and interceptors with lower health would be interesting. The other approach is realism, and that would only work out as a limited time event, something that showed up 1 week a month between Iron Banners. It would also need some really good loot. Let's take a moment to talk about Divinity runs. Divinity runs are the magic in Destiny. The puzzles are fun and challenging at times. If we had more of those in Patrol, people would have a blast. People would talk to each other in local chat. I wouldn't be mad if you just copied the puzzle mechanics and visuals entirely. Just set up the layout different. Make an obstacle course like in the Harpy encounter. Bungie has great successes tucked away in this game. The problem is that there are glaring flaws that aren't addressed. One being the Divinity puzzles. You have to do everything in one run, and I have sat in 10 or more Divinity runs that lasted more than 3 hours. Sometimes 7 hours. I've seen some at 11 hours, and the original people that started it are long gone. They had to work, eat, poop, sleep. There's a reason why raids have a checkpoint system, so you can do it across multiple sessions, but Divinity is not like that, and is an obvious problem that could have been prevented. All you have to do is provide checkpoints in the quest, like most quests already have. Step 1, do first puzzle in garden. Step 2, do second puzzle in garden. Last step, beat the boss. Get Divinity. It should have come out like that. It would also prevent fireteam leaders from kicking you at the end and bringing in their own people for the clear. Giving players the opportunity to do that was Bungie's fatal mistake in this quest. Everything else about it was the magic in Destiny. But what's missing now is the loot. The loot I have now will not get me to log into Destiny. It's the loot that I do not have that will keep me coming back. If they turned any number of these experiences into a way to get unique loot, it would drive player engagement. There are 2 easy ways to do that. Reward new titles, reward old cosmetics. And the harder way, which is making new rewards, which I think would be best done with a new reward and older rewards sprinkled in. A PvP experience is not what sets Destiny apart from other games. It's the first-person PvE that feels unique to Destiny, and they aren't capitalizing on that. They abandon PvP, they abandon Gambit, they sunset the first half of the game, and they're only doing cash grab for Eververse. Do I think Bungie needs more money? Of course, but it's not like they aren't making money. JP Deathblade combined the cost of monetized purchases and estimated $4 million in revenue since August 22nd. And while that's not profit, that's also not all of the cosmetic purchases. Just some of them. They are making money. Prime Gaming rewards, you have silver-only shader and ornament purchase bundles, silver-only ornaments for weapons and armor, season pass dungeon keys, silver-only emotes, holiday event upgrade cards, character boosts, $1 season pass rank ups that no longer have a cap. New Halloween masks and older content is now silver only. Finishers, ghost shells, and they are really expensive. When an emote is more expensive than a season of content, or an armor set is more expensive than an entire dungeon, you know it's ridiculously high. They don't need more people to buy stuff if they can get all of the sharks to pay more per item. Bungie said that over-delivery creates a pattern to disappoint players in the future. But if you never over-deliver, you won't have any players. Forsaken added 2 destinations with unique puzzles and mysteries. That's why it had the magic of Destiny. Neomuna was at least better than Europa, but it's the planets themselves that create the allure of Destiny. Traveling the unknown universe. Big DLC is the magic of Destiny. The ease of loot in this game is a problem. Handouts won't cut it. You have to feel like you earned the loot, like you had to struggle for it. A reward obtained with no struggles holds no value, but a reward you fought tirelessly for will give a sense of accomplishment. Crafting is a mixed bag. The people that need good crafted weapons are too casual to actually unlock the patterns. And the top 2% of players are getting a god roll as a handout. I do like crafting. It seems like a fair trade for RNG, but as it stands, crafted weapons are taking the top slots, creating power creep, and casual players who don't craft are further being left behind. As a potential solution, it might be better to rework enhanced perks. have enhanced perks be stronger and be less accessible, while also making base crafting more accessible to newer players, like one pattern each, but for enhanced perks needing more patterns. What about loadout diversity? Exotic armor is a great way to make builds, but the mods aren't there, and set bonuses to armor just don't make sense unless we see a large increase to vault space. Artifact mods do an okay job in diversifying builds each season, but we need those mods to be added to our Guardians after a season has ended if we want some niche playstyles. Variety is the spice of life. The mods we have now have no variety. The game has had hard challenges, but the game is too casual. Removing content was bad. It ruined the new player experience. Power level hasn't helped anyone in the game. It does drive player engagement artificially, but it is also a deterrent. As seen by the recent pause in progression between seasons, it's mostly positive reception. Stats in Destiny seem to be in the right direction except for resilience. The game got a lot easier with the introduction of damage reduction. So much so that it practically forces 100 resilience PvE builds. It sucks to be one-shot in PvE, so I would say it's better to go from the current 30 to 20 or 15% damage resistance for resilience, but in return, add a one-hit kill protection instead, so it's less bullcrap but not easy. That's just an idea I'm throwing out there, not saying it would work, but they already added it to prevent deaths by fall damage, and it has worked alright so far, and a welcomed addition in my opinion. Just add that in another form, so that if you're full health it brings you to 1 health, instead of dying on the first hit. Or maybe can't be one shot above 75% health. Let resilience give us more health, but don't let it be the deciding factor in PvE. I know people will disagree with me here, and it's definitely not in my top desires for Destiny, but the power creep it brings will just make future activities harder to compensate. PvP has always needed one thing: more party modes. Momentum, mayhem, and relic modes are what casuals want. A game doesn't have to show skill to be fun. We need combined arms and even sparrows. Having sparrows in Iron Banner was a highlight for the community. Halo Forge created an infinite replayability for that game because people value creativity. What about Destiny killers? Many games came along and were thought to be a Destiny killer, and nobody does Destiny better. Third-person MMOs come close, but first-person shooters do not capture the same PvE aspect. If you give me the choice between Halo campaign and Destiny, I would choose Destiny. If there's one thing I think needs changed in Destiny, is the stat distributions on armor. The way focusing armor works at seasonal tables is great. The distributions can be split amongst 2 stats and nothing else, but exotic armor and artifice armor are not like that. They have low spikes in stats, making them less desirable. If Bungie created a way to focus more into specific stats, people would grind it. If you could redistribute even 10 stats on each piece after you get a drop, then people would do any activity or grind to make better exotics and artifice armor. We have a way to do 10 stats before a drop, but honestly that's not enough. And there's not enough space in my vault to accommodate mediocre armor that I wish I could change just one thing. What are the better seasonal activities? 6-mans, the Sundial, I liked Catch Crash, and then public area events like Vex Strike Force and Escalation Protocol. It makes areas feel alive. Although it would be better with matchmaking and also 6-man fireteam for just free roaming, so that you can really have fun. Blindwell isn't bad either. Dares of Eternity is a great 6-man activity. It's a cool space. The original Halloween Haunted Forest, using the Infinite Forest as a base, was great, with mask perks that actually felt game-changing. Invulnerability in air, increased damage and healing on precision kills. The Revelry wasn't as good, and made the Haunted Forest feel cheap. It was too samey. The armor ornaments were great though, the cosmetics were great, and then never sold again. Bungie should put time into making these old cosmetics as exclusive loot in other activities, giving reason to farm more of the things that involve other players, with matchmaking. My cheese ghost projection lives on. A lot of the groundwork is already there to boost player engagement. Market your cosmetics outside of Eververse, outside of Triumphs. People want a ton of loot. And on that note, we need more experimental fireteam sizes. 4-man PvE, 8-man, 9-man. Maybe not the 12-man glitch again, cause we know the game doesn't hold up. They also need to add Crimson Doubles back as a rotator, 2-man PvP. Also, Crucible Labs with boosted rep was a good idea, and Crimson Doubles could be added to that. The season wasn't bad as a whole, but what was disappointing was the Deck of Whispers. It could have been great, but the effects just aren't buildcraft worthy. The RNG part doesn't play into builds either. Also, an additional tooltip telling you what your card does before starting the encounter would have been helpful. I don't speak Hive Caveman drawings. I think the seasonal model is at its best with weekly story missions, 2 3-man activities, and a 6-man activity or public space activity like the Contact public event and the Warmind Bunker one. You could rotate one of each after every 3 months. I think that should be the bare minimum for a season to keep people entertained. And of course, loot. The new perks are great. The elemental orbs are okay in the artifact. Tons of great changes have evolved the game, such as character-based artifact perks and cheaper mod options. The state of PvE isn't bad. It's that new people don't know what to do, and old people have no reason to do anything. Things like the Refer a Friend quest were great in that aspect. It rewards players for helping Guardians. Even Guided Games raids, if you remove the clan restrictions. But of course, not everyone got the opportunity to help new players, because it was near impossible to meet up with them. If Bungie created incentive, easily identified new players, and also a place to find new players, that could alleviate some of the issues linked with a declining player base. A free game has a lot of potential to draw in players, but the retention isn't there. The tutorials are crap. They have tried to make it easier, but they don't have the story, and they don't have the right single-player experience when you first start the game. And to that I say, you should really just bring back the base game story mission with Gaul, possibly a streamlined version of it. Cosmodrome isn't as good. Buying your abilities from Ikora for billions of Glimmer is not as good. Having to wait a long time to unlock subclasses is not it. So I would say start again if you have to. Make a new player experience that starts on a pyramid ship. Put money into gaining new players. We want more enemy density, more players fighting together. We want to feel challenged. We want something cool that takes a grind to get. And we want that in PvE. Entice us with low drop rate cosmetics.
Cheese forever, Guardian!